Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz, and this is Ron's Big Shot Breakdown. We're going to go over 5 college basketball games for Sunday, November 12th, 2023. Now, if you like what you see, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to put your college basketball picks in the comments section below. And if you're looking for my best bets, including my $19 Bank Shot best bet, you can find those at the Premium Picks tab at pickdawgz.com. Alrighty, let's get into it. Here are the games for Sunday in college hoops. First up, it's Eastern Washington against Cincinnati. This one, 12 o'clock Eastern. It's going to be on ESPN+. Now, Eastern Washington's first 2 games of the regular season, not great, 2 losses, but they played pretty tough teams in Utah and Ole Miss. Now, the Utah game was pretty much a disaster, 101-66 the final score. But the Ole Miss game, a true road game against a Power 5 team, 75-64. Really no shame in that loss for the Eagles. But now your third straight true road game against another really tough team in Cincinnati, another Power 5 team in the Big 12 this year. And Cincinnati 2-0 to start the season, looking really strong on both sides of the ball, holding Illinois-Chicago, a solid Illinois-Chicago team, to 58 points in Game 1, and then holding Detroit Mercy to 61 points. So the defense really showing, 25th right now in adjusted defensive efficiency. And I also think the defense in this particular matchup benefits in a game like this because Eastern Washington's a team that takes a lot of three-point shots. They took 30 in a game against Utah, over 20 against Ole Miss as well. But Cincinnati and Wes Miller teams have been really good against the three. Last year, they were 38th in the nation in three-point defense. And then a couple years ago, 54th in the nation in three-point defense. So I do think Cincinnati defensively is strong in this game. The question is, can they score enough points to cover this big number? I think so. Eastern Washington's defense has not been in great form to start this season. Really, it wasn't great last year. 210th in adjusted defensive efficiency. They don't really force a lot of turnovers, so not really aggressive defense. I do think Cincinnati scores a lot of sustainable buckets in a game like this and wins this game and covers the number. So give me Cincinnati. I'll lay the big number. Next up, we see Air Force and Delaware. This one, 1 o'clock Eastern. Now, Air Force, pretty tough spot for the Falcons in this game as they only have 1 day off from their game on Friday on the road against LIU. It was a 15-point win there. Really strong showing in the first half of that game on both sides of the ball, but wasn't the best showing in the second half, especially of the second half, where they lost the second half by 1 point in the end. I do think that this is, like I said, tough spot. Only 1 day off and back-to-back road games. While Delaware looks pretty strong to start the season, a win over a D1 opponent in Bucknell, 78-57, covering the spread along the way, and then taking care of business against a subdivision opponent, 101-68. Delaware, shooting the ball very well to start the season, especially from three-point range. I do think they are the better team in this game. They have home court advantage, and we're laying a pretty reasonable number with the Blue Hens. I do think Air Force, like I said, the second half of that game against LIU was a bit concerning. The Sharks on the other side were able to score quite a few sustainable buckets in that game, to get really easy buckets in that one. So even though LIU didn't have the best night shooting, they were still able to score 67 points. I have some worries about this Air Force defense going forward, especially in true road games like this against competent shooting teams like Delaware. So give me the Blue Hens. I'm going to lay the points at home. Next up, it's Sam Houston taking on Oklahoma State. This one, 3 o'clock Eastern on ESPN+. Sam Houston, I thought last matchup for it against Utah Valley was a really good one for their offense to get going, but it was a loss 79-73 outright. Sam Houston was around an 8.5 point favorite at the closing number, 7.5 points, I believe. And they lost that game outright. The offense was not sharp in that game. They were not just, it's one thing if you miss open looks, but Sam Houston wasn't really getting good looks to begin with. Their offensive rebounding numbers are not great to start the season, so I worry about this offense. This has been a program that has been very defense first the last decade. They have a strong defense so far this year. Last year was one of the best defenses in mid-major college basketball, but you got to be able to score points, especially on the road and especially against really good defenses like Oklahoma State. The Cowboys looking to bounce back for their upset loss to Abilene Christian, their first game. Abilene Christian and many WAC teams have pulled off some nice upsets in recent years, so it's really not the worst loss you could take if you're the Cowboys, but you certainly don't want to make it 2 in a row against a team like Sam Houston, who was a WAC member last year. But, Oklahoma State, like I said, really strong defense. Last year, one of the better defenses in the Big 12, 12th ranked in the nation in adjusted defensive efficiency. Also a really slow defense. They force opposing teams to take a lot of the shot clock so far this year in that game against Abilene Christian, holding them to about 20 seconds per possession for Abilene Christian. So I expect, even though Sam Houston likes to run the floor, I think this is going to be a slower game, more defensive first game from both teams. And I don't really know if I trust either of these offenses right now. So I'm going to take the under in Sam Houston, Oklahoma State. Next up, we see Clemson and Davidson. This one's going to be 3 o'clock Eastern as well. It's going to be on ESPN2. Both teams 2-0 to start the season. Davidson coming off a nice upset win outright as a double-digit underdog. We took them plus the points on the bank shot breakdown. They beat Maryland 64-61, shot 53.3% from the perimeter, and they earned a nice win over a Power 5 Big Ten team. But I do think this could be a bit of a letdown spot, and they are facing a really tough opponent in Clemson, who has played two tougher teams to start the year in Winthrop and UAB. Took care of business in both of those games, and Winthrop's been one of the better mid-major schools in college hoops last decade. UAB's had a couple of nice seasons as well. So strong victories for Clemson. They look good on both sides of the ball, and I do think that when you look at Clemson, they've been a solid perimeter defense as of late. In recent years, I think they'll be able to compete with Davidson. I also think Clemson against Davidson's defense will be able to find a lot of sustainable buckets, just like they did against UAB. In that game against the Blazers, Clemson was 21 of 36 from two-point range, so 58%. They're only 31.6% from the perimeter, so most of their buckets were scored, in the most sustainable ways in college basketball, those two-point buckets. They also got to the free throw line 27 times, so it's a really good offensive day. 16 assists in that game, only 10 turnovers. I think Clemson's offense is a really big day here. It should be enough to cover the spread. I think this is a letdown spot for Davidson. Give me Clemson laying the points. Next up, we see Northern Arizona taking on Grand Canyon, a final game I'm going to talk about for Sunday's card in college basketball. This one's 5:30 Eastern. It's going to be on ESPN+, and it's a part of the Arizona Tip-Off Series, but it's a home game for Grand Canyon, a true home game for GCU. They have a great home court advantage in the WAC. They win a lot of their games at home, and they won their first game this season at home against Southeast Missouri State, 88-67. Looked really strong on both sides of the ball. I think they have a big advantage in most facets of the game in this one. They're certainly the more talented team. Also on the glass especially, Grand Canyon, a lot of offensive rebounds in that win over Southeast Missouri State. And Northern Arizona struggled to box out against UConn in its first game, giving up a lot of offensive rebounds, 15 offensive rebounds. So on 45.5% of UConn's missed shots, they were able to earn the offensive board. That's just going to be, no bueno in a game like this against GCU, who's already got a really elite offense in the WAC. To me, that's just a really tough spot for Northern Arizona. I know it was UConn, and you can't just overreact to one performance against one of the better teams in college basketball, but I did not like what I saw on either side of the basketball in that game. Going on the road against GCU is not going to probably be much easier. So give me GCU, Grand Canyon, laying the big number at home. And that's it. Those are the games for Sunday in college basketball. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. And don't forget to put your college basketball picks in the comments section below. Again, if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at Pick Dawgz Premium. As always, this is Romanelli. Good luck.